Get ready for major changes in the weather pattern as we wrap up the month of January. This will impact the temperatures that you feel and the potential for a couple major storms at the end of the month. Welcome back to another weather update, guys. I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico, and we're going to have some fun with this one as we break down everything in the weather forecast between now and the end of January. We'll talk a little science, get into the jargon you may be hearing, and make sure you're prepared for the week ahead. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe now. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you have any questions, drop them there too. So without further ado, let's jump into the forecast and talk about what's coming next. Everything in our weather begins at the top and comes down to the surface. So to put together a good forecast, we need to look at the top first. And we're going to start with the jet stream here, which you're going to notice is very wavy right now. You see those ridges and dips? Well, that's part of the reason we saw such extreme cold across the U.S. and the extreme snowfall on the Gulf Coast too, which was absolutely insane, that once-in-a-lifetime snow event. When you get that wavier jet stream, you get more extremes, but we're going to move this forward and you're going to see some changes to the jet stream immediately, and we're going to stop this here on Sunday. This is January 26th. Two things stand out to me here, and we're going to be looking at both of them closely. One is this upper level low, that sort of bowl that's sitting out there in the western U.S. This will have some big impacts that we're about to talk about in the next week here. We also have what is called zonal flow. You see how the jet stream, it's very flat out here in the eastern U.S.? Zonal flow generally favors weaker storm systems. It's hard for them to develop in this pattern. We also see temperatures return to the mean, so we're talking about more average weather through the weekend and the start of next week. And it also means that if there is any precipitation, rain or snow, it doesn't last long as everything is fast moving. So this is our pattern on the weekend and at the start of next week. But let's talk about that closed off low in the west because it has some big impacts that are coming our way. The first is actually going to be quite beneficial. We're moving this into Tuesday now, the 28th, and you're seeing this low pressure system sit around southwestern California out here in the western U.S., and it's going to bring some rain to those areas that really need it. It will help with the wildfires substantially, so that's a good thing. The other thing you're probably noticing here is that we have two separate jet streams showing up. We have split flow. We have our subtropical jet here in the southern U.S. We also have our polar jet out here in the northern U.S. When those two jets are separated, it typically favors quieter weather in the U.S., and that's what we're going to see through the weekend and into the start of next week. When they come together, that's when you can get some big storms, especially snowstorms. And watch what happens as we move this farther into the week. We're going to get this into Thursday now, which will be the 30th, and Friday the 31st. That closed-off low-pressure system, it begins to deviate. It ejects out of the southern jet stream and really messes everything up. So you're now seeing this system begin to jump northwards through the central U.S. If this occurs a little bit later and ends up farther east, our weather will also end up farther east. But right now, it looks like it will impact much of the central U.S. Here's our closed-off low, and with it, a lot of energy. The potential, in fact, for severe weather will exist on the south side of this, and the potential for winter weather on the north side, as this is likely to be a very dynamic and impactful system as we get into around Friday, January 31st, likely in the central U.S. But that will not be the only thing we need to watch. We also have to watch a wave of energy right behind it. And you're seeing this dip in the jet stream right here, and those bright colors near New England. That tells you, again, there is a wave of energy, and this has the potential to bring some snowy, but especially wet weather to a chunk of the country. And depending on how it lines up, the polar jet and the subtropical jet, we will have to determine as we take a look at the forecast down the road, but it will have an impact on whether we see rain or snow. So let's jump into that part of the forecast, take a look at how these storm systems will play out at the ground as we show you our future cast. Now that we have an understanding about what's going on above our heads, we can take a look closer to the surface. And this will basically tell us where rain or snow is expected. And I'm going to move this straight forward into the second half of the weekend, into Sunday in fact. You're noticing that much of the U.S. here is very quiet. That's thanks to our zonal flow. That's zonal flow at work for you right there. Couple things, though, you will also notice. We have our closed-off low in the southwestern U.S., again, bringing very beneficial rain to California as soon as Sunday. You'll see a few clipper systems. They may bring some light snow to the northern U.S. through the week, and we're not talking about much, on the order of an inch or a few, depending on where you are. And there's also a little bit of moisture coming off the Gulf that'll bring some rain to the southeastern U.S. None of these systems very impactful. Remember, things are usually weak when you have that zonal flow. But that will change as we get into the middle and late days of the week. Remember our closed off low. Look what begins to emerge here as we get into Thursday. That's some precipitation out there in the south central U.S. That is our system beginning to come together. And as we move this forward into Friday, you're going to begin to see everything build into what will be a more powerful storm system. there's your wintry weather at the north, and your potential for some severe weather or at least strong storms on the south side of this. Right now, this looks like it could end up being a damaging wind threat. Of course, it's something we'll need to watch, but Friday the 31st is certainly a day to keep tabs on as we move forward. And of course, we're going to have a lot more updates on this channel about that. But we mentioned that second storm system too in the northeast. Well, here's what we're looking at right now on some of our weather data. This would be around February 2nd, Groundhog's Day. And because that polar jet, it kind of backs off and the subtropical jet takes over, we're looking at more green colors here, a better chance to see rain across the northeast and the eastern U.S. as a whole, but still the potential for some snow exists, and there's a lot of time for this system to still evolve. This could end up being a bigger snow event. We just need to wait for those details to come into focus. But for now, certainly two systems to pay close attention to, the one on January 31st, the next one on Groundhog's Day, and we'll also be watching the potential for another wave of energy into early February coming into the Pacific Northwest. So stay tuned as we keep an eye on these, but we also need to look at the effect all of this weather will have on temperatures because those are changing wildly as we move into this final week of January. One of the craziest things so far this winter is that all of the lower 48 states have seen snow at some point, and you're seeing here the totals across the nation. Very incredible to see so few gaps in where snow has fallen. Sorry to anyone who lives here in central Mississippi where snow has seemed to miss the south. But we still have a lot of snow on the ground, and it's very impressive to see as much as we have to this point. You're now looking at a map of the snow depth. And one of the things we're going to notice in the early part of the week here, actually by the end of the weekend, is that all that snow in the south is going to begin to melt as milder air returns. And you can see it disappearing here as we move into Monday. The other thing you're going to notice is that as temperatures become a little more mild and average, that snow, especially across the central U.S. and northeast, it doesn't completely go away in the higher elevations, but it does begin to melt, and you're seeing it really begin to diminish there by the time we get to the middle of the week. So a couple changes in the snow cover right there. But that's important because it has impacts on the temperatures that we see too. Let me show you how. And as we begin end of the week, I should say, and begin the weekend, where we have snow on the ground in the southeastern U.S., you're going to see those much colder than average temperatures. Here's your Friday, still plenty of those blue colors around out there, and here's your Saturday as well. That's snow on the ground, allowing those night times to get colder and making it harder for the sun to heat the ground in the day. So into the first half of the weekend, it will be on the colder side, especially in the southeastern U.S. However, if you're in the north central U.S., especially Midwest, that's where we're going to begin to see the return of some milder temperatures. We're going to move this into the start of the week, and remember that zonal flow. If you take a look here, you're not really seeing any significant anomalies out there in our temperatures. Everything is pretty close to average through the beginning of the upcoming week, the 27th and 28th especially. But the one exception is the north central U.S., where we are going to begin to see our first taste of milder than average temperatures, and that's largely because our polar jet sort of avoids this part of the country, and temperatures are able to get a bit warmer as a result. As we move into the middle of the week, you're going to see the entire country becomes a lot more mild. A huge shift from where we've been recently this month. This is now, we're looking at Tuesday and Wednesday. This is the 29th. And you're seeing, again, most of the United States now becoming a bit warmer than average. The only exception, some areas much warmer than average, in fact, in the central U.S. The only areas staying colder than average, likely to be portions of New England. And it won't be by that much, but that is the one exception to the milder temperatures arriving by the middle of next week. And after that, things get a little hectic as that cutoff low cuts through the central U.S. Storm systems begin to emerge. I'll give you a little sneak peek here, but as you can see, we have some very different air masses that'll come into play in February, and something we'll continue to check up on this channel as we give you more forecast updates. We'll wrap up our forecast right here, guys. You'll want to check back, of course, for updates as we continue to watch that January 31st to February 2nd window very closely. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to drop them in the comments now. In the meantime, enjoy the quiet weather. Hopefully it can warm up a bit, and we'll see you here very soon.